Concentrate your thoughts now. Choose one. Do not let the world's distractions rob you of this special moment. It would have made sense for you to have broken 3 days ago. You should have grown concerned. It would have been prudent of you to withdraw. Despite the betrayal, silence, and exhaustion, you are still standing, which is a spiritual anomaly. Do you believe God is silent because of his absence? False. He remains silent out of confusion. You did not simply pass the examination. You were able to perplex the adversary and captivate heaven. The wait area is currently closed. The decision has been rendered. God's response to your victory is about to change your life forever. Please pay close attention to my words. For the past 72 hours, this message has attempted to reach you. The enemy tried to divert your attention with drama, sudden fatigue, noise, and technical glitches in order to keep your thumbs scrolling past this. Nonetheless, you prevailed. You're present. Additionally, you must understand that this is not a YouTube video. This is the divine summons. You've just entered the spirit world, where you have a scheduled appointment. Bye. Before we can proceed, I need you to make an immediate commitment to yourself. Please do not leave this message until the very last moment. I'm not requesting your time to observe. I'm requesting your attention because we're about to activate the Divine Awe Protocol. This recording will give you a thorough understanding of why your life has been subjected to so much scrutiny. The specific framework for managing the upcoming promotion will be provided to you. In addition, we will conclude with an activation ceremony that will change your trajectory. If you leave halfway through the surgery, you are exiting the operating room while the procedure is still ongoing. Do not allow that to determine your fate. Continue, accept, and complete the work that God has begun. We will now examine your current location. I'd like you to confirm whether this is consistent with your beliefs. You are currently experiencing a sense of heaviness while listening to my voice. Instead of a spiritual heaviness, you feel a physical pressure in the center of your chest, slightly to the left. It's as if you've been carrying a burden for weeks. When you wake up in the morning, you exhale a deep sigh before your feet even touch the ground. You are tired, but it is not the type of fatigue that can be relieved by sleep. You could sleep for 12 hours and still wake up exhausted because your spirit has been pushing weights in the unseen realm that would crush most people. For months, you've been sitting in a room that looks like a waiting room, staring at walls that refuse to move, repeatedly checking your phone for a notification that never comes, and asking the ceiling, "God, did I fail? Is it possible that I missed the turn? What is the reason behind the silence?" You've felt the sensation of being an invisible man or woman. You enter rooms and feel as if you are hidden behind a glass wall. People don't seem to hear you when you speak. You provide assistance, but no one expresses gratitude. You give, but nobody returns the favor. Recently, at 3 a.m., a chilling thought entered your mind, implying that you are delusional. It's possible that God overlooked me. It is possible that I am suffering unnecessarily. I need you to exhale and let the air enter the back of your throat. Listen to me. The pressure on your chest is not a medical condition, anxiety, or depression. Kavod is the Hebrew word for glory. Also, are you aware of the literal meaning of the term kavod? The term means heavy. It is an indicator of gravity. The pressure you are feeling is not the weight of the world, but the weight of the glory that is currently settling on your life. God's confidence in your ability to handle a significant task has caused you to feel heaviness. You do not load heavy cargo onto a vessel that lacks strength. The first sign that you have been authorized to transport a large item is the sensation of pressure you are feeling. However, let us talk about the silence. Isn't it the most distressing aspect? You have shown fidelity. You have demonstrated loyalty. You kept your hands clean, despite the possibility that they had become soiled. Nonetheless, heaven appears to have become silent. There is no clear voice, visions, or dreams, only static. The enemy has been using this silence to torment you. He informs you that God has left the structure. He informs you that you were disqualified. However, I am here to deliver a prophecy to your spirit today. The silence you are experiencing is not a result of abandonment. Silence is reminiscent of a grandmaster chess player performing an unexpected maneuver. The entire stadium becomes silent. There is no one speaking. No one breathes. They are simply observing, amazed by the maneuver's ingenuity. One that has been selected. You embody the movement. God is currently silent as he observes you with boundless awe. He is looking at your timeline, the trauma you have experienced, the people who have abandoned you, and the financial crisis you are currently facing. Furthermore, he is astounded that you continue to compliment him. He is taken aback by your continuing generosity. He is astounded that you did not curse him and kill him. You are a malfunctioning part of the adversary's system. 3 months ago, the enemy's algorithm predicted you would crash. His data suggested that you would be bitter, vengeful, or an alcoholic by this point. You are, however, present to hear a God-related discourse. This is the reason for the silence. The throne room is completely focused on you. However, the hazard is as follows. In this section, the majority of the selected candidates fail the test at the last minute and do not receive a mark. You believe God is taken aback by your strength. You believe he is impressed because you gritted your teeth to get through the pain. You believe the exam was designed to assess your ability to endure pain. As a result of this belief, you are preparing for more hardship. You are preparing to face additional challenges by contracting your shoulders. However, I must tell you the truth. That is not the cause of God's amazement. Endurance serves as the foundation. A soldier is expected to have endurance. However, you are not just a soldier. Your status is one of royalty. The test you recently took did not assess your physical strength. It was a test for an entity that was significantly more unusual and dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. God is not surprised by your strength. He is taken aback by a decision you made when you had the power to eliminate someone. This is the key. This is the enigma. And as soon as you realize this, the burden on your chest will be lifted. You have had a long-standing misconception about the true purpose of this season. You convinced yourself that this was an endurance test. After observing the sleepless nights, financial drought, and relational betrayal, you may conclude that God is testing your ability to bear a certain amount of pain before your emotional breakdown. You believe that heaven is looking for a spiritual Navy SEAL who can take a beating and continue marching. So you've been grinding your teeth. You have been holding back your tears. Despite the fact that you are collapsing internally, you have been wearing that mask of invincible strength every time you leave the house. You tell yourself, I just need to keep my cool. Surviving is my only goal. You are burnt out and exhausted because you believe the test is about endurance, which is a tiring activity. Endurance is a defensive attribute. Endurance is simply the act of avoiding death. However, please choose one. I require that you understand this information clearly. The ultimate test was not endurance. Endurance was merely a prerequisite. If there is no other option, any individual can bear pain. A prisoner is forced to serve his or her sentence out of necessity. That does not make him king. Let us look at a scripture that you've probably heard 1,000 times but has never been analyzed in this way. According to James, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, for he will receive the crown of life." Perseverance is currently the point at which the majority of people give up. They believe it is simply a matter of perseverance. But the Greek term for enduring the test is dokimos. Please pay attention to me. Dokimos does not mean you simply survive the fire. Gold and silver are known as dokimos in the field of metallurgy. This means you entered the fire, melted, and the impurities rose to the surface, where they were removed. The resulting substance was considered acceptable. That is, you are now genuine. In other words, the fire did not only consume you, but it also cleansed you. So, if endurance was merely the fire, what impurity was God attempting to eradicate? What was the actual assessment? The following revelation will fundamentally change your perspective. The examination did not determine the thickness of your skin. The examination focused on your heart's tenderness. The spiritual anomaly that has God taken aback is not your strength. Mercy is yours. Specifically, your ability to show mercy in the face of the ideal opportunity for vengeance, the valid reason, and absolute power. I propose that we focus on that particular moment from last week. You are aware of who I am referring to. Let us return to that specific conversation or text message thread. Your heart was thumping. The knots in your stomach were unbearable. You were reviewing the evidence of their actions against you. The betrayal was evident. A voice in your head screamed at you, a voice that was very loud, very logical, and very human, with obvious lies. It said, "Destroy them." It said, "Expose them." It told me to send the screenshot. Disclose the information. Destroy their reputation in the same way they have harmed yours. You have the necessary ammunition. You're entitled to it. Execute the action. I'm aware you had that experience. It wasn't sacred. It wasn't visually appealing. It was an outburst of pure rage. It was the desire to see them suffer in the same way as you. That is a typical human response. That is the basis of karma. Eye for an eye. Tooth for tooth. Nonetheless, you proceeded to take illogical actions. Something you did violates the laws of human nature. You paused. You could feel the heat in your chest but didn't release it. You set the weapon down after staring at the damaging information and cutting comeback. You deleted the draft. You abandoned the argument. When given the option of violence or silence, you chose the latter. That split-second decision stunned God. That's the mercy anomaly. Because of the inherent character of endurance, everyone is constantly struggling for survival. However, show mercy. Mercy when you're bleeding. Mercy while the knife is still lodged in your back. That's the realm of the supernatural. That is not representative of human behavior. That is the activation of divine DNA inside a human body. You demonstrated to heaven that you are more than just a survivor by refusing to retaliate. You demonstrated to the heavens that you can be trusted with authority. God cannot give you the authority to destroy nations when you are strong if you are unable to prevent yourself from destroying an enemy when you are weak. The exam was never meant to assess your ability to withstand a punch. The question was whether you'd return it. You earned a passing grade. Despite the fact that the season was supposed to harden your heart, you kept it soft. However, I can hear your thoughts while they are in motion. Fear is rising in your throat, and I can hear it. You are thinking, however, if I show compassion, will they not repeat the behavior? Will I be considered a doormat if I refrain from retaliating? Am I simply allowing them to prevail? How can I show mercy to someone who is still using a weapon against me? This appears to be an absurdity. Sounds perilous. This implies a lack of fortitude. In reality, it is the most potent source of power. However, in order to use it safely, an approach must be implemented. There is an ancient paradox, a spiritual maneuver used by King David to transform his greatest enemy into his footstool without ever using a sword. The Davidic paradox is its name. Furthermore, you must put this into action right away in order to be eligible for your promotion tomorrow. In order to understand the Davidic paradox, I need you to mentally accompany me to a specific historical moment. We will read from 1 Samuel chapter 24, but we will not be able to sit comfortably in a chair. I'd like you to enter the scene. Conjure up the scent of damp limestone and musty air. It's ominous. It is extremely hot. You are hiding in a cave in the En-Gedi wilderness. Your heart is beating so hard against your ribs that you're concerned the sound will reverberate off the walls. David is your name. You have been designated as king. However, you are currently living as a rat, pursued by Saul, the man you have faithfully served. The sunlight at the cave's entrance is suddenly obscured. A silhouette enters. My name is Saul, and I am the person who wishes you dead. He is unaccompanied. He is susceptible. He has entered the building to relieve himself, completely unaware that you and your men are hidden in the shadows, just a few feet away. Immerse yourself in the moment. This is the most rigorous exam. This is not a conflict. It's a form of execution. Your men are urgently whispering into your ear. They are saying, David, this is the day that the Lord spoke of. He has transferred your adversary to your possession. Execute the action. Put an end to the suffering. Assume the throne. Please pay attention to the reasoning. This sounds like a prophecy. It resembles the voice of God. It appears to be an issue of justice. Eliminating Saul would provide an immediate resolution to all of your issues. There will be no more running. There will be no further concealment. You would control the kingdom. Strike immediately. Every rational fiber in your body is screaming. However, David performs an act that amazes the angels present. He moves slowly, holding a knife. He approaches Saul close enough to detect his respiration. He is close enough to end the situation. Rather than severing Saul's throat, he carefully cuts a corner of Saul's robe. What is the rationale for the robe? The hem of a man's robe represented his authority and status in that culture. By cutting the hem, David implied that he was in control of your reputation, authority, and life. I'm capable of handling it all. However, I have decided not to. This is referred to as the Davidic paradox. This is a paradox. The throne is not obtained by assassinating the king. By sparing him, you gain the throne. Destroying someone who is inferior to you does not demonstrate true power. True power is demonstrated when someone has the unwavering ability to eliminate them. However, You choose to exercise self-control. So, how will you incorporate this into your daily routine tomorrow morning? The Davidic paradox is built around two movements: restrain and release. Restraint is the first step. This is the most difficult task you will ever face. It is the act of possessing nuclear codes, but choosing not to activate them. The sword in your life is not a metal one. What you are currently seeing on your phone is a screenshot of the sword. The sword represents the secret you keep about the coworker who is undermining your efforts. The scathing email you've written in your head is the sword. The enemy's goal is to have you use the sword. He wishes for you to reveal the information. He requests that you submit the screenshot. Because if you do, you may win the debate. However, the anointing will be forfeited. You will fall from the rank of king to that of brawler. Restraint entails examining evidence that could lead to destruction. In addition, you keep it in the dim cave. You cut the robe, indicating that you inform them of your knowledge or acknowledge the truth to yourself, but you do not carry out the attack. Release is the next step. David's conscience was troubled when he cut the robe. Even that minor act of vandalism appeared excessive. He emerged and yelled at Saul, "May the Lord judge between us, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me. However, my hand will not touch you." This was the release. You are transferring the court case to the supreme judge. You claim, "God, I am vacating the judgment seat to allow you to occupy it." But I must inform you that God is a far more thorough judge than you could ever be. You can only influence their situation if you try to avenge them. Their soul is the focus of God's interactions with them. Allow me to demonstrate how effective this is. I'd like to inform you about a specific person. Please refer to her as Sarah. 6 months ago, Sarah found herself in her own cave in En-Gedi. She found text messages on her husband's phone. There is unequivocal evidence of an affair. The betrayal cut her deeper than any blade. She possessed the evidence. The screenshots were in her possession. She was familiar with the other woman's name, occupation, and spouse. Sarah's spiritual advisors, like David's men, advised her to destroy everything. They said, "Post it, tag them, and tarnish their reputations. They are entitled to it." She sat in her car, her thumb hovering near the send button. She desired to carry it out. Her entire wounded soul cried out for justice. However, she felt a dip in her spirits. She remembered the Davidic paradox. She realized that temporarily exposing them would help to alleviate her anger. However, it would eliminate any possibility of God's redemptive intervention. As a result, she accomplished a seemingly impossible feat. She demonstrated restraint. She kept the evidence, but she refrained from using it as a weapon. She confronted her husband with reality. She severed the corner of the robe, but she did not publicly destroy him. She stated, "I am aware of your actions. I was injured. However, I will withdraw and let God address you." She suffered 6 weeks of silence. She appeared weak. She seemed to be a doormat. But then the release happened. God stepped in as a result of her departure. The husband was so heavily burdened by guilt that he was unable to sleep, as it was manifested in the form of conviction. He broke without her public shaming or nagging. He came across Damascus Road in a hotel room located 300 miles away. He returned not only apologetic, but transformed. He is currently in charge of leading their family's prayer time. He is currently the one who seeks God. If she had humiliated him in public, he would have gone on the defensive and fled. By demonstrating mercy, she provided an opportunity for God to perform a miracle. She reclaimed her husband by sparring rather than fighting. That is your current level of authority. The Davidic paradox's impact. The kingdom of darkness is perplexed when you spare your adversary. God rushes in to fill the vacuum you've created. However, I am aware of your thoughts. Right now, I can hear the objection forming in your mind. Fear is a rational response. You believe that this is advantageous for Sarah and David. However, my adversary is neither Saul nor a straying husband. Those who are attacking me will not repent if I show mercy to them. They'll simply reload. They will take my silence as a sign of weakness and trample me underfoot. Currently, a voice is whispering to you, warning that if you extend forgiveness, you will be exploited. You will be a victim indefinitely if you do not respond. The greatest impediment to your breakthrough is the fear of being perceived as a doormat. Let's be brutally honest about that fear. We are unable to get around it. It cannot be eliminated through spiritualization. Right now, your survival instinct is screaming at you, causing a knot to form in your stomach. It implies that by not responding, I condone their disrespect. If I remain silent, I am allowing them to hurt me again. I do not want to become a martyr. I do not want to be the victim. I want to be respected and validate that feeling. This does not make you a bad Christian. It transforms you into a human being who has previously experienced pain. You have scars that prove that when you let your guard down in the past, people took advantage of you. So showing mercy feels like handing someone a loaded gun after they've already shot you once. But this fear comes from a fundamental mistranslation that has plagued the church for centuries. We've been taught that the opposite of vengeance is weakness. We have been taught that being humble means being soft, passive, and harmless. Let me take you to Matthew chapter 5, verse 5. You are familiar with the verse, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." When you hear the word meek, what do you see? A person with their head down, apologizing for their existence, someone who cannot defend themselves. That is why you hate the idea of mercy, because you think mercy makes you meek, and you think meek means weak. But the English translation fails us here. The word Jesus used was the Greek word praus. In the ancient Greek military culture, praus was not used to describe a weakling. It was a specific term used to describe a war horse. Imagine a stallion, 3,000 pounds of muscle, hooves that can crack a skull, teeth that can tear flesh, a creature designed for war, full of fire and fury. But when that wild stallion was trained, when it learned to submit perfectly to the bit in its mouth, when it learned to charge only when the rider commanded, and halt only when the rider pulled back, that horse was called praus. It did not lose its strength. It did not lose its fire. It did not lose the ability to kill. It brought all that power under authority. Meekness is not weakness. Meekness is a dangerous power that is fully under control. So when God asks you to show mercy to your enemy, He is not asking you to be a pony. He is asking you to be a war horse. He knows you have the screenshot. He knows you have a sharp tongue. He knows you could destroy their reputation in 5 minutes. The fact that you have that power is what makes your mercy significant. A harmless rabbit cannot show mercy because a rabbit has no power to destroy. Only a lion can show mercy. Only a war horse can show restraint. When you restrain yourself, you are not saying, "I am weak." You are saying, "I am so powerful and I am so disciplined by the Spirit of God that I choose not to crush you, even though I can." That is not being a doormat. So, that is being a king. And this brings us to the most important pivot of your entire journey. This is the truth that changes everything. This is the revelation that will snap that heavy chain of people-pleasing off your neck right now. Why are you so afraid of looking weak in front of your enemy? Why does it bother you if they think they won? Why does it burn you up if they smirk at your silence? It is because you think times they are the audience. You are living your life like you are on a stage, and you think the people in the front row are your enemies, your ex-friends, your doubters, and your haters. You are performing for them. You are trying to prove your innocence to them. You are trying to show your strength to them. And because they are the audience, their reaction controls your emotions. If they clap, you feel good. If they boo, you feel bad. If they smirk, you get angry. But I need you to close your eyes for a moment. Do not change your posture. Just shift your mental gaze. I want you to visualize that stage again. But this time, look past the front row. Look past the critics. Look past the people who betrayed you. The lights go up, and you realize that the auditorium is not empty. It is not filled with your enemies. It is filled with heaven. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 tears back the curtain of our reality. It says, "We are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses." This is not a poetic metaphor. This is a spiritual reality. The Greek word for cloud here suggests a massive, dense crowd filling a stadium. Who is in that stadium? Who is watching you right now? David is there. He is leaning over the railing, watching you in your cave moment. He knows what it feels like to hold the knife. And when you choose mercy, he is not thinking you are weak. He is roaring with approval. He is pointing at you and saying to the angels, "Look, that is the spirit of a king." Joseph is there. He is watching you deal with the betrayal of your brothers. He knows the pain of the pit. When you refuse to get bitter, he is standing on his feet in glory, cheering you on because he sees his own DNA in you. Stephen is there. The first martyr who prayed for his killers while stones were crushing his skull. He is watching you pray for those who persecute you. And he is saying, "That is it. That is the power that overcomes the world." And in the center of them all, standing at the right hand of the Father, is Jesus. The one who stood silent before Pilate. The one who said, "Father, forgive them," while the nails were being driven in. He is your audience, not your boss, not your ex, not the person who lied about you. They are just extras in the movie. They are just props on the stage used to test your character. Why are you so obsessed with the opinion of the props? Why are you trying to win an argument with an extra? The only eyes that matter are the eyes of the director. The only applause that counts is the applause of heaven. When you realize this, the trap snaps open. You become free. You can look at your enemy and smile, not because you agree with them, but because you no longer need their validation to know who you are. You can embrace the silence, because in the silence you can hear the roar of the cloud of, "You are not performing for the world anymore, chosen one. You are performing for an audience of one." Aiu, and right now that audience is on the edge of his seat. He has seen your endurance. He has seen your struggle. But now he is waiting for the finale. He is waiting to see if you can execute the move that only a true child of God can execute. When you realize God is the only spectator that matters, the script of your life flips. You stop reacting and you start strategizing. You stop fighting like a survivor and you start operating like a sovereign. God is waiting for 3 specific actions from you on this stage. 3 moves that signal to the heavens that you are ready for the transfer of power. I call this the Divine R Protocol. And if you do these 3 things starting tomorrow, you will force a shift in your reality that no devil can stop. The Divine R Protocol is not a suggestion. It's a spiritual law. It consists of 3 specific moves that, when executed in order, signal to heaven that you have graduated from a survivor to a sovereign. You need to memorize these steps, because the next time you are attacked, your instincts will scream at you to do the opposite. Move number 1 is the sovereign silence. This is different from the silence of fear. Fear is silent because it is afraid of the consequences. Sovereign silence remains silent because it understands the outcome. Look at Jesus as he stands before Pilate. Pilate possessed the authority to kill him. Pilate was asking questions, demanding answers, and attempting to persuade Jesus to defend himself. But Jesus didn't give him any fuel. He stood in deafening silence. For what reason? Because a defendant presents his case, whereas a king declares his will. When you argue with your accuser, you step down from your throne and join them in the mud. You are validating their accusation by providing a response. The next time someone lies about you, misrepresents you, or attacks your character, your first response should be to close your lips. Don't explain. Kindly refrain from defending yourself. Please do not clarify. Let the lie linger in the air. When you refuse to defend yourself, you make God your defense attorney. And he's never lost a case. The second move is to the table. This comes directly from Psalm 23, verse 5. In front of my adversaries, you set a table for me. We say this all the time, but we overlook the strategy. Take notice of the table's location. It is in the presence of an enemy. The enemy is still present. He has not yet been removed. But God has set an abundant table right in front of him. Here's the strategy. You cannot eat and fight simultaneously. If you leave the table to fight the enemy, you will starve. If you stay at the table and eat the blessings God has given you, the enemy must watch you prosper. The ultimate vengeance is not destruction. It's a visible acceleration. Your strategy is to concentrate so hard on your assignment, growth, and business that you treat the adversary like furniture in the room. You don't speak to the furniture. You do not fight the furniture. You just eat. The most difficult move is number 3. This is the nuclear option. It's a blessing. Jesus said, "Bless those who curse you." This isn't a poetic sentiment. It's a strategic weapon. When you bless an enemy, you cause a spiritual short circuit. Their curses are based on the frequency of hatred. When you give a blessing, you send out a frequency of love. Darkness cannot comprehend light. It confuses the demonic spirits working behind that person. I want you to perform this mentally right now. I want you to envision the face of the person who has caused you the most pain. See them clearly. Instead of picturing them being punished, I want you to imagine a beam of light striking them. I want you to say this in your spirit. I bless them. I bless their financial situation. I wish them good health. I release them from my judgment. Feel the resistance in your stomach. That's your flesh dying. Push through it. When you bless them, you break the bond that holds you to their dysfunction. Does this work in the real world? Let me tell you about Michael. Michael, a high-level creative director, watches this channel. Approximately 8 months ago, a new manager joined his department. This manager felt insecure, manipulative, and threatened by Michael's talent. It started small. The manager would exclude Michael from important email chains. Then he began taking credit for Michael's ideas at meetings. Then came the sabotage. The manager presented the CEO with a project that Michael had worked on for 3 months, and he put his name on the cover. He completely removed Michael's contribution. Michael learned 5 minutes before the meeting. His blood was boiling. He had an email trail. He had the timestamps. He had the proof. He was prepared to storm into the conference room and expose the fraud in front of the CEO. He was prepared to go to war. But Michael remembered the divine, or protocol. He paused in the hallway. He felt the Holy Spirit press down on his chest, so he chose sovereign silence. He did not storm the room. He did not send the angry email. He went back to his desk and sat down. Then he approached the table. Instead of fighting for credit, he decided to work twice as hard on the project's next phase, knowing that the manager would be unable to execute it because he did not understand the vision. And then Michael did something unthinkable. He applied the blessing. Every morning as he drove to work, he prayed for the manager. He prayed for his insecurity to be alleviated. He prayed for his family. He claimed it felt like swallowing broken glass at first. But he continued to do it. Here's what happened. 3 weeks later, the CEO summoned Michael to his office. Michael thought he was being fired. The CEO looked at him and commented, "I noticed something in the last presentation. The data was good. However, when I asked your manager to explain the strategy, he couldn't." He froze. It became very clear to me that he had not written it. The CEO continued. "But what really impressed me, Michael, was that you never complained. You never criticized him. You simply kept delivering excellence. That kind of character is unusual." That afternoon, the manager was dismissed. Not because Michael exposed him, but because the table was prepared in front of the enemy, who exposed himself. But here's the surprise. Michael did not simply return to his previous job. The CEO appointed him to a new position as Vice President of Strategy, skipping 2 levels of management. He was elevated above the very seat that attempted to crush him. That is the divine, or protocol. Silence. The table. The blessing. It works because it removes the battle from the realm of human logic and places it under divine jurisdiction. However, I must issue a critical warning. This isn't a game. When you activate this protocol, you create a spiritual flare. You are signaling to heaven that you are ready for promotion, while also signaling to hell that you are a threat. Do not believe for a second that the enemy will simply let you walk into this new level of authority without a fight. He isn't going to back down. He's going to change tactics. Newton's third law states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. The same is true for the spirit. When you decide to show mercy and walk in this high-level authority, the enemy will launch a counteroffensive. I've seen this pattern in thousands of chosen ones. Within 40 days of activating this protocol, 7 distinct forms of confrontation will arrive at your door. These are not simply bad days. These are calculated, strategic counterstrikes intended to cause you to lower your standards and return to your previous fighting style. If you don't recognize them, you'll believe you've failed. You must know exactly what they look like because the first one usually arrives within 24 hours. The first counterstrike typically occurs within 24 hours of your decision to walk in mercy. Do not ignore this. To survive what lies ahead, you must first understand the mechanics of the spirit realm. Why is the enemy more aggressive when you forgive than when you fight? It's simple economics. The kingdom of darkness feeds on low vibration energy. It feeds on hostility, resentment, offense, and vengeance. When you engage in a conflict, argue, or plot vengeance, you are essentially setting a table for demonic spirits. You're feeding them. But if you choose the divine hour protocol, which includes silence, the table, and the blessing, you cut off their food supply. You starve the enemy out of your surroundings. A starving predator is an angry predator. He will not leave quietly. He will try to bait you back into the fight so he can eat. For the next 40 days, you will be in a high alert zone. The enemy will launch what I call the 7 counterstrikes. These are 7 specific traps designed to pique your ego and compel you to pick up the sword you just dropped. I can't cover all 7 right now, but I can warn you about the 3 deadliest. If you fall into one of these categories, you must immediately withdraw from consideration for promotion. Trap number 1 is victim bait. This typically takes the form of a reactivation text message or a sudden, unexpected disrespect from a third party. You'll be feeling good, holy, and at peace when the person you've forgiven does something petty. Alternatively, a random stranger will be rude to you. The enemy is fishing. He's dangling a hook in front of your face to see if you bite. He wants you to say, "Look, I tried to be nice, but it didn't work. They do not deserve my mercy." He wants you to revert to the victim mentality because being a victim diminishes your power as a king. When this happens, do not react. Recognize this as bait. Look at the hook and swim straight past it. Trap number 2 is the gossip trap. This is subtle. You will feel an overwhelming desire to tell someone what you did. You'll want to call your best friend or mother and tell them, "You won't believe what they did to me, but I was the bigger person. I forgave them, even though they were terrible." Halt. That's a trap. The moment you pick up the phone to vent, you are leaking power. You seek validation from others rather than God. You're trying to get credit for your humility. True mercy is silent. If you have to broadcast your forgiveness, you have not truly forgiven. You are just posing. Keep your mouth closed. Keep this a secret between you and God. The more you talk about the wound, the longer it remains open. Trap 3 is the most dangerous of all. It has destroyed more destinies than sin ever could. It's the pride trap, also known as the spiritual ego. We see a terrifying example of this in Luke chapter 18. Jesus tells a parable about a Pharisee and a tax collector. The Pharisee stands in the temple, confident and holy, and prays, "God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even this tax collector." Do you see the trap? He's doing the right things, but his spirit is toxic. He is using his righteousness as a weapon to cast judgment on others. When you start applying the divine or protocol, you will notice a difference. You're going to feel powerful. You will feel cleaner and higher than those who are attacking you. And in that moment of victory, the enemy will whisper, "Look how holy you are." Consider your spiritual maturity in comparison to those who are at a lower level. If you agree with that whisper, you become a Pharisee. You cultivate a spiritual ego. You begin treating others with condescension rather than compassion. And when arrogance enters your heart, God resists you. You passed the test of mercy, but failed the test of humility. So, how do you win this confrontation? How do you survive?
Chosen one, I require you to suspend all activities and focus solely on the information I am about to convey, as it occurred exactly 72 hours ago and you were unaware of it. You were so mentally drained, overwhelmed, and exhausted that you failed to recognize it as a test. However, it was. It was the final assessment, the final exam. The final assessment determines whether a soul is ready to assume genuine spiritual authority, or if they must return to the preparation stage. The following is what you should be aware of. You received a passing grade. Not barely passed. Is not passed with a slim margin. You demonstrated such undeniable character transformation that the spiritual realm felt compelled to immediately convene the Council of Elevation, as described in ancient texts. You passed with distinction. Additionally, at exactly 3:33 a.m. tonight, an event will take place in dimensions that the naked eye cannot see, but the soul can feel. Heaven will officially commission you, not symbolically or metaphorically, but literally, in the unseen realms where spiritual authority is given. You will be granted permission to operate at a level at which you have been training for your entire life without your knowledge. Please do not assume that this will suddenly simplify your life, or that promotion will lead to a smooth transition. The upcoming events tonight are not intended to reward good behavior. It acknowledges that you can now be trusted with a higher level of responsibility. And increased responsibility always results in a greater challenge. However, there is a difference. Following tonight, you will face those challenges with the help of spiritual resources that were previously unavailable to you. Instant access to knowledge. Automatic discernment. Unwavering tranquility. Authority that does not need to make an announcement. Heaven commissions someone, which is exactly what happens. Capacity rather than comfort. Empowerment, not simplification. Not relaxation, but instead readiness. I will inform you of the test that was given 3 days ago, as it is critical that you understand the material that you successfully completed. Something occurred around 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. That caused you to go over your limit. It's possible that the conversation was completely misguided. It's possible that the situation reactivated all of the old wounds you thought were healed. Perhaps you were so overwhelmed by loneliness that you couldn't stop crying. You maintained a state of numb silence. Perhaps it was an act of betrayal so shocking that your mind couldn't process it. It's possible that you were so exhausted that you couldn't think, and instead reacted instinctively. Whatever it was for you, it sent you into a state of automaticity. You were unable to perform because of exhaustion. I am too damaged to maintain a facade. The appropriate response cannot be determined due to a lack of resources. You were simply existing. You lacked the energy to be anything but your most authentic self. And at that moment, no one was present. If you had made a different choice, no one would have known. When you had every reason to be bitter, in retribution, with regard to selfishness, with cruelty, by way of compromise, you didn't. When you were exhausted and unable to control your emotions, your innermost being responded immediately with integrity. Someone may have verbally assaulted you, and your instinct was not to fight back, but rather to remain silent. It's possible that you had access to information that could have benefited you at the expense of another person, but were unable to capitalize on it. It is possible that you were given the opportunity to reveal the identity of the person who harmed you, but you declined. Perhaps you were faced with a choice between your own comfort and the well-being of another person, and without hesitation, chose their welfare. It's possible that you faced temptation alone, and no one would have known. However, you continued to leave. The specific circumstance is irrelevant. What matters is this: you no longer have to demonstrate your goodness. It is part of your identity. Your integrity is no longer a conscious choice you make whenever you have the energy. It serves as the default configuration, your automatic operating system, and the one you've chosen. That is the truth that heaven had anticipated, and it is revealed here. They do not instruct you in religious settings. Your theology has no relevance to the spiritual realm. It makes no difference how many scriptures you have memorized. It makes no difference how many spiritual books you've read or how long you've spent in prayer or meditation. It is preoccupied with this singular question: who are you when you don't have the energy to be anything but your authentic self? What is your identity when your masks start to fall off due to fatigue and inability to keep them on? Who are you if no one is present and no one will ever know what you decided? That is the only relevant question because it determines whether your transformation is genuine or fabricated. And 3 days ago, in that state of complete exhaustion, you answered that question. The answer was so unmistakable, clear, and confirmed that the observation deck in the spiritual realm, where assigned angels monitor human development, erupted. Applause is not appropriate because it is a human emotion. Instead, it is a form of recognition. The type of recognition that occurs when a person discovers their true identity. When potential is realized. When preparation turns into readiness. When training turns into mastery. Allow me to elaborate on the significance of 333 this morning. First and foremost, it is critical to understand that time works differently in the spiritual realm than it does in physical reality. However, there are times when the line between dimensions becomes more blurred, allowing spiritual activity to more easily penetrate physical reality and downloads to occur with less interference. One of those moments occurred at 3:33 a.m. This is the reason. Between 3 and 4 a.m., human consciousness reaches its lowest point of activity. The majority of people are currently having their most profound sleep. The spiritual environment lacks the usual collective mental chatter. In that stillness, in that silence, the spiritual realm can function precisely. However, the number 333 is especially important. The number 3 represents divine completeness in sacred mathematics, which is not superstition, but the recognition of patterns across all wisdom traditions. Father, Son, Spirit, birth, life, death, beginning, middle, end, past, present, future, mind, body, and soul. It is the number of completions. When it is tripled, 333, it indicates completion upon completion upon completion, the end of a cycle, the graduation of a phase, and the clearance of a level. This is why significant spiritual transitions throughout history have frequently included a variation of the number 3. 3 days were spent in Jesus' tomb. Jonah spent 3 days inside the whale. 3 days before Passover, the Israelites set out on their journey. It's a pattern. In addition, your pattern will be finalized at 3:33 p.m. tonight. This is the actual outcome. Ancient texts describe the court of heaven as the location where your soul will be brought before it, while your conscious mind is asleep. Your body will remain in your bed, but your soul will be transported to a dimensional, spiritual space where spiritual authority is granted, and you will be given 3 specific authorizations. These are not permissions that can be used in any manner. These are spiritual abilities activated by your character, which is why you had to pass the initial test. The universe does not give weapons to people who may misuse them. It only grants authority to those who have demonstrated a willingness to refrain from abusing it. This is the ability to understand situations, people, and circumstances at a level that does not require intellectual analysis. You will start to acquire knowledge that is not logically derived. You will be able to understand the underlying dynamics of conversations. You will be able to recognize when something is wrong before you can articulate the cause. You will understand others' genuine intentions, even if they do not disclose them. This isn't a psychic ability. This is discernment that has been sharpened to the point where your spirit perceives spiritual activity in the same way that your eyes see physical activity. It will appear so natural that you will not realize it is supernatural. You will simply be aware of certain things, and you will later wonder how you knew them when you are proven correct. This is how you will know that this authorization is active. 2. Authorization. Unwavering tranquility. This isn't happiness. Circumstances determine happiness. This is a state of tranquility that lasts regardless of the circumstances. You will navigate storms while remaining calm. You will be attacked, but remain composed. You will experience both disorder and a sense of equilibrium. Not because you are immune to external influences, but because you are deeply rooted in a foundation that is independent of circumstance. It will be noticed by others. They will ask how you keep your cool, and you will be unable to respond satisfactorily because the peace you have is not the result of any technique or practice that you can teach. It evolves from your personality over time. It is the result of having seen a lot of fire, which has made you resistant to heat. 3. Authorization. Spiritual authority. This is the most difficult to express because it does not involve the manipulation of anyone or anything. It's about how much weight your presence carries. When you speak, people pay attention. Others respect the act of remaining silent. When a boundary is established, it is in effect until a decision is reached. Things are in harmony. Not because you are applying pressure, but because you have established yourself as a figure who can be trusted to wield that level of power. In the wrong hands, this authorization is dangerous. However, in the right hands, which have been purified through suffering and tested, it becomes a tool for blessing rather than control, liberation rather than manipulation, elevation rather than dominance. As a result, the universe conducts tests on individuals before granting them this authority. There is no instruction manual included with these 3 authorizations. A user guide is not included. They will activate tomorrow morning, and you will be able to identify their activity by looking for 3 specific signs. Sign 1 demonstrates almost eerie mental clarity. When you wake up, your mind will be more alert than it has been in years, if not ever. Confusion that has obscured your decisions, fog that has clouded your thoughts, and overwhelm that has made everything seem complicated. It will vanish rather than be diminished. In its place, profound clarity will allow you to navigate situations that previously took weeks to resolve. You will understand the concept within minutes. Not because you suddenly have all of the answers, but because you can suddenly discern what is important and what is not. You will be able to confidently make decisions that were previously paralyzing. And what is significant becomes clear. If you are reading this and notice that a change occurred 3 days ago but are unable to identify the specifics, please do me a favor and enter 777 in the comments section. This is not a superstitious or lucky gesture, but rather a spiritual symbol. When chosen ones recognize each other and witness each other's transitions, their frequency amplification has an impact on the spiritual realm. Your 777 is reserved exclusively for you. This is for anyone who needs confirmation that they are not insane, that a real change has occurred, and that their perception of change is correct. 2 signatures are required. Emotional balance that surprises you. You will notice that the things that once triggered you no longer do. Individuals who once drained you are no longer able to do so. You now find that previously overwhelming situations are manageable. This is not because you are suppressing your emotions. It is not a result of your gradual numbing. It is the result of rebalancing your emotional center. You have faced numerous challenges that have required the development of emotional fortitude. However, the majority of people never build anything. It is possible to feel strong emotions without being affected by them. It is possible to be compassionate without being consumed. It is possible to love while maintaining one's identity. Additionally, the public will observe this stability. It will be tested in practice. They will unconsciously try to elicit the old response from you. And when you don't give it to them, when you respond calmly in a situation where you previously responded agitatedly, they'll be perplexed. There will be individuals who follow it. It will be a danger to others. This will allow you to determine which individuals are appropriate to include in your next chapter and which are not. Signage number 3. Synchronicities that are too accurate to be coincidental. You will notice that life is synchronizing in your favor in ways that are beyond explanation tomorrow, or perhaps the day after. You will require something, and it will appear. A person will come to mind and contact you. You will have a question, and the answer will come in the most unexpected way. You will encounter an impediment, and the exact resource you require will be provided. This is not a manifestation. This is not an example of the law of attraction. When you reach a spiritual level, the universe begins to orchestrate reality around you in new ways because you can now be trusted with that level of support. In the past, the universe was unable to provide you with a large number of material possessions because you were not prepared to manage them effectively while your character was being tested. However, you have now demonstrated that you will not take advantage of the blessing. You will not worship provision. You will not exploit favor in order to allow the floodgates to open without destroying you. I must now warn you about a subtle threat that has the potential to undermine everything you've recently accomplished. It's deceptive. Most people do not notice its subtle infiltration until it has already eroded their spiritual pride. When you wake up tomorrow with mental clarity, emotional stability, and perfect synchronicity, you will encounter a temptation, a whisper, or a thought. The thought will sound like this: I've finally arrived. I am superior to those who are still facing difficulties. I have a unique quality. I've been selected. I am exempt from the turmoil that ordinary people face. If you continue to believe this, cultivate this arrogance, and allow it to take root in your mind, you will lose everything you've recently gained. Gradually, rather than immediately. That mental clarity is about to fade. That emotional balance is about to crumble. Those synchronicities will cease, as the universe only gives power to those who remain humble. The moment you begin to look down on others from your elevated position, you begin your descent. As a result, the following is the course of action to take if that thought occurs, which it will. You recall. You recall 3 years ago when you were the one going through difficulties. You recall the time 5 years ago when you were the one who got lost. During that time, you remember feeling shattered and frantic, unsure how you would get through. You recall each person who showed you kindness, even when you were undeserving. Each person who remained patient with you during your difficult times. Everyone who believed in you even when you had no reason to believe in yourself. You allow that memory to keep you humble. Not a false humility in which one pretends to be powerless, but a genuine humility in which one acknowledges that their power was obtained at a cost, and that cost inspires compassion rather than contempt for those who are still paying the price. The crown you will receive tonight is not a trophy. It functions as a device. It does not imply that you are superior to all others. It acknowledges that you are capable of taking on additional responsibilities. Humility is always necessary for responsibility. The moment you believe your crown gives you superiority, you demonstrate that you were unprepared for it. So, wear it with gratitude. Wear it with awareness. Wear it with the understanding that those who receive much are expected to give back. Your advancement is not driven by vanity. Your assignment requires your promotion. Your role is to be a guiding light in dark places, a source of calm in chaotic places, and a steadfast presence in the midst of turmoil. I'll now inform you of the person who has the authority to remove your crown after you receive it tonight. It's not divine. God's actions are not determined by his moods or errors. It's not the devil. There is no authority over what heaven grants to the devil. Circumstances are not the cause. External circumstances cannot eliminate internal authority. You are the only person capable of removing your crown. The only way to accomplish this is to deliberately, consciously, and knowingly compromise your integrity for personal gain, even if you are fully aware of the consequences. This is not an accident, a temporary weakness, or a failure to achieve perfection. It is a deliberate betrayal of one's own character. You've decided to use your spiritual authority to manipulate others, your discernment to control them, and your peace as a weapon to make others feel inadequate. When you weaponize your blessings, when you abuse the gifts you've been given, when you turn tools meant for construction into weapons meant for destruction, you lose your crown, not as punishment, but as protection. Because an individual with spiritual authority who is corrupted is more dangerous than an individual without authority. This is why the examination was so rigorous. This is why you were required to pass the Level 3 evaluation. The one in which your character is tested when you are too exhausted to finish it. 3 days ago, you showed the universe that your default setting remains intact, even in your most vulnerable, weakest, and worst-case scenarios. As a result, when you receive these authorizations tonight, you can be confident that they are secure in your possession. Heaven knows you won't mistreat them. Heaven knows your default response will be character-driven, regardless of whether you are tired, depleted, or overwhelmed. However, it is critical that you understand the following about how to care for your crown after you purchase it. It is not about being flawless. You will continue to make errors. You are still going to have bad days. You will continue to have occasional failures. This is indicative of human nature. It is critical to understand your trajectory. Do you intend to increase or decrease your level of integrity? Is it more appropriate to show humility or pride? Increased service or increased selfishness? Your crown will be secure as long as you are committed to growth. Recognize when you fall short and correct course, and keep your trajectory upward. It is not prone to damage. It does not shatter after the initial error. However, it responds to intentional, persistent character betrayal. Therefore, safeguard it. Not with perfection, but with commitment. With faithfulness instead of flawlessness. I will now reveal the more profound reason for your appointment at this precise moment in history. It's not arbitrary. It isn't just because you've completed your personal journey. Because the world is going through an unprecedented amount of upheaval, it is critical that people who can maintain a sense of stability are present. Older systems are collapsing. The institutions in which people had faith are being exposed. The authorities on which individuals relied are being investigated. In the midst of this chaos, people will be desperately looking for a solid foundation to cling to. Not information. Not theories. Not a guarantee. However, there is tangible evidence that it is possible to maintain self-respect while making other compromises. Living proof that it is possible to remain calm in the midst of widespread anxiety. Living evidence that it is possible to love in the face of hatred. You are living proof of this. It's not because you know all the answers. Not because you never face difficulties. It isn't because you're perfect. However, your life demonstrates that transformation is genuine. It is possible to forge that character. That optimism can withstand the depths of hell. They will want to know your secret after witnessing your peace in the midst of their chaos and your stability in the midst of their storm. Furthermore, your confidentiality cannot be articulated in words. One of your secrets stems from your exposure to fire. Furthermore, the only way to teach it is to experience it firsthand. That is your responsibility as the chosen person who has been commissioned. Not to save every individual. Not to resolve all issues. Not to have responses to all inquiries. However, to demonstrate that it is possible to navigate darkness and emerge with clarity. That is enough. That is completely sufficient. Therefore, at 3:33 p.m., tonight, when your soul is presented to the court of heaven and those 3 authorizations are granted, accept them with an open heart and humility. When you wake up tomorrow and feel the transformation, when you notice the synchronicity, peace, and clarity, remember that these are tools, not awards. Use them to bestow blessings. Use them to construct. Use them to show affection. Examine the universe's reaction to someone who possesses power but uses it with humility. At that point, miracles are the norm. At this point, the provision becomes consistent. This is when doors you were previously unaware of open. Your examination has ended. Your crown is ready. Your commission begins tonight. Gently navigate it. Serve with authority. In the absence of light, radiate it. Because that is how the chosen behave. It is not because they are superior to others, but rather because they are reliable when the majority of people fail. You are that dependable person, and tonight, heaven confirms it. If you are aware that something changed within you 3 days ago, or if you believe that a test was successfully completed despite your lack of knowledge about the test, please enter 777 in the comments section right now. It's not a mystical number. It functions as an indicator. A spiritual compass. A confirmation from heaven that you received this message at the exact time. In addition, the presence of your 777 confirms the experiences of other selected individuals. This is how we identify one another not by what we say, but by the experiences we've had and the people we've become as a result. If this message has struck a chord with you and you don't want to miss the next installment, please subscribe and enable notifications. Because the events that are about to unfold in your life as a newly appointed chosen one will require guidance, confirmation, and encouragement. That is why this channel exists. To assist people like you in understanding the spiritual dynamics of their experiences, preventing them from becoming delusional and walking alone. Just one more thing. If you were listening to the message and thought of someone who is currently going through their own final test, who is exhausted, broken, and operating on autopilot, please forward this message to them. They require assurance that their suffering is not arbitrary. They may be closer to passing than they realize, given that it is the final exam. Your contribution may provide them with the assurance they need to get through another day. And that extra day could be all that's needed to establish their character and activate their own commissioning. Chosen one. Your loneliness was caused by an evaluation, not abandonment. Your exhaustion was not punishment, but rather a form of preparation. Your breaking resulted in transformation rather than destruction. And tonight, at 3:33, heaven confirms what you've already demonstrated. You're prepared. I extend a hearty welcome to your coronation. However, before we conclude, I must tell you about the practical changes you will notice in your daily life. Spiritual commissioning affects not only your inner world, but also your physical movements. Modify 1. People will react differently to you. Certain people will be drawn to you for reasons they do not understand. They will seek your guidance, desire to be in your company, and experience a sense of security in your presence. These are people whose spirits recognize the authority you now wield. Others, however, will be repelled by you for unknown reasons. They will avoid you, feel uneasy, and find reasons not to engage. These are people whose dysfunction conflicts with your peace. The attraction and the repulsion are both reactions. They are confirmation that your frequency has also changed. Your capacity to tolerate specific environments will diminish. Locations that you previously tolerated will immediately deplete your energy. You will experience a toxic atmosphere in conversations that you previously engaged in. Your spiritual sensitivity has been enhanced, and low-frequency environments will drain you. Therefore, whenever you experience an unpleasant environment, it is advisable to depart. If a conversation becomes toxic, it is suggested that you leave. You are not being impolite. You are abiding by your discernment. Substitute 3. Your relationship with time is about to undergo a transformation. You will experience a sense of urgency, not anxiety, but rather a recognition that time is a valuable resource. Activities that previously consumed hours will appear senseless. The allure of distractions that previously consumed you will diminish. Your purpose is being activated at a deeper level, and each moment spent on activities that are not in alignment feels like time that has been stolen. Substitute 4. Your relationship with the divine is about to undergo a significant transformation. It will cease to be perceived as an action and will instead be perceived as an aspect of your identity. You will be in perpetual communion. The line is perpetually accessible. The connection is perpetually operational. Tuning in is effortless once you establish a connection. Change 5. The movement of your finances and resources will be alternative. Provision will manifest in unexpected manners. You will observe that you consistently possess precisely the items you require at precisely the appropriate time. This is a manifestation of divine favor. Frequently, the universe offers all the necessities in ways that circumvent conventional systems. I would now like to address a critical question. What if I do not experience those symptoms tomorrow? Does this imply that I failed? Here is what you need to understand. Divine timing governs the spiritual realm, as opposed to human anticipation. The signs might unfold gradually, appear subtly, or hit you all at once. It is important to remain vigilant in order to identify them when they appear, as spiritual promotion occasionally results in increased resistance. The enemy launches an immediate attack in an attempt to convince you to relinquish the possession you have recently acquired. So if tomorrow is harder, don't interpret that as evidence that nothing changed. Interpret it as evidence that something major changed. Let me also tell you what not to do. Don't announce your commission. Don't post about it on social media. The spiritual realm values secrecy during initial phases of empowerment. Hold this close. Share it only with people who would understand. Let the transformation speak through your life before you speak about it. Also, don't try to force the authorizations to activate. They work naturally when needed, not artificially when forced. Trust that when wisdom is needed, it will be there. When peace is threatened, it will hold. Let it happen organically. And finally, remember this. Being commissioned doesn't mean you never struggle again. What it means is that you now have access to resources that help you handle struggles differently. You still face battles, but with weapons you didn't have before. You still walk through valleys, but with guidance you didn't have before. The difference is not the absence of difficulty. The difference is the presence of empowerment. If this message confirms something you felt but could name, type 777 in the comments as a declaration that you recognize your testing season is complete and your commissioning has begun. Let your 777 witness to others that transformation is real, that tests do end, that promotion does come. And if this message brought clarity, hope, or confirmation, hit that like button. Engagement helps this reach others who are in the middle of their final test, exhausted and broken, needing to know they can endure one more day. Your like could help this message find them at their exact moment of need. Make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. What happens after tonight? You are going to need ongoing guidance and confirmation. This channel exists for that purpose. To help you navigate walking in spiritual authority so you don't feel crazy and you don't walk alone. Chosen one, your loneliness wasn't abandonment. It was an assessment. Your exhaustion wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Your breaking wasn't destruction. It was a transformation. And tonight at 3:33, heaven confirms what you already proved. You're prepared. I extend a hearty welcome to your coronation.